she never walked until the new nanny worked a miracle. David Thompson was at the end of his rope when he decided to give one last chance to a new nanny. His 3-year-old daughter Emma had never taken a single step, and dozens of specialists had already come to their home without making any progress. That's when young Ashley showed up for the interview. David barely looked up from the papers scattered across the table, convinced this would be another failed attempt. "Mr. Thompson, I'm Ashley. I'm here for the caregiver position for Emma," she said, her voice soft but firm. David sighed heavily, not lifting his eyes from the documents. "Look, miss, 23 people have already come through here. They all left after a few weeks saying they couldn't help. If you really want to try, the girl is right there in the living room." Ashley walked over to where Emma was sitting on the floor, surrounded by colorful cushions. The child watched her with big, curious eyes, but made no move to come closer. Instead of trying to lift the girl or offer toys, Ashley simply knelt and began mimicking Emma's movements on the floor, clapping her hands and swaying from side to side. David appeared in the doorway, ready to dismiss yet another candidate, when he heard something he hadn't heard in months: his daughter's crystal-clear laughter echoing through the entire house. "What are you doing?" he asked, visibly unsettled by the unconventional approach. "I'm getting to know Emma on her terms," Ashley replied, not stopping her play on the floor. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now back to the story. At that moment, Mrs. Grace, David's mother, came rushing down the stairs. At 68, she had moved into the upstairs part of the house after her daughter-in-law left, leaving her son alone to care for Emma. "David, what was that? Was Emma laughing?" the older woman asked, breathless. "The new nanny is down there playing on the floor with her," David replied, clearly annoyed. "That's not a serious work method." Mrs. Grace watched the scene for a few minutes. Ashley had managed to get Emma to crawl a few inches toward her, something none of the other caregivers had achieved. "Son, give the girl a chance. Look how Emma is responding." David resisted for a few days, setting a strict 2-week deadline for Ashley to prove her method worked. During that time, he spent most of his hours at the office, avoiding what he saw as a waste of time and money. Ashley, however, was determined to understand what was really happening with Emma. She spoke at length with Mrs. Grace, who told her about the family's difficult last few months. "Jennifer, my former daughter-in-law, couldn't handle Emma's situation," the older woman explained as they prepared lunch together. "She tried everything, took the girl to dozens of doctors, spent a fortune on treatments. When she realized nothing was working, she started pulling away." "And when did she leave?" Ashley asked. 6 months ago. She said she needed time to find herself, but the truth is, she abandoned her daughter." David was devastated, trying to handle everything alone. Ashley began to realize that all the previous specialists had focused on Emma's legs, trying to force movements and exercises, but no one had taken the time to observe the child's behavior more deeply. During one of their floor play sessions, Emma burst into tears when Ashley tried to help her stand. The reaction was so intense that the nanny knew something deeper was going on. "Mrs. Grace, can you tell me exactly what happened the last time Jennifer tried to get Emma to walk?" The elderly woman hesitated for a moment, then took a deep breath. "It was awful, dear. Jennifer was desperate, trying to force Emma to take her first steps. She held the little girl's hands and pulled her up, but then she tripped on the stairs. They both fell, and Jennifer hit her head really hard." "Did Emma see everything?" "Yes, she did. She screamed in panic. After that, she never wanted anyone to try lifting her again. It's like she developed a fear." Ashley finally understood. Emma didn't have a physical problem preventing her from walking. She had an emotional trauma that paralyzed her every time someone tried to make her stand. With this realization, Ashley completely changed her approach. Instead of trying to make Emma walk, she focused first on building the child's trust, creating floor games that gradually involved small movements. David, always absent because of work at the consulting firm he ran, started coming home earlier when Mrs. Grace told him about the little improvements. Emma now crawled with more energy and even tried leaning on low furniture, but always staying close to the ground. "She's getting better, isn't she?" David asked his mother one of the rare nights he arrived before 8. "Yes, son. Ashley has a special way with her, but you should spend more time here. Emma misses you." David felt a lump in his throat every time he thought about getting closer to his daughter. Ever since Jennifer had left, he'd felt lost, unsure how to handle Emma's special needs. One morning, 3 weeks after Ashley's arrival, something unexpected happened. Mrs. Grace was heading downstairs to the kitchen when she heard raised voices at the front door. "I have the right to see my daughter," shouted a woman's voice she recognized immediately. Jennifer had shown up unannounced, demanding to see Emma. David hadn't returned from work yet, and Ashley was in the backyard hanging laundry when she heard the argument. "Jennifer, you can't just show up here after 6 months," Mrs. Grace said, trying to stay calm. "She's my daughter. I heard you hired another nanny and that Emma's improving. I want to see it for myself." Ashley walked into the house just in time to see Jennifer marching determinedly toward the living room where Emma was playing. The child's reaction was immediate and devastating. She burst into desperate tears and curled up in the corner, completely regressing to the behavior she'd had before Ashley arrived. "Emma, Mommy's back," Jennifer said, trying to approach. But the girl screamed even louder, refusing to let anyone come near. The encounter was disastrous. Emma spent the rest of the day in complete silence, returning to the total immobility she'd had before. When David came home that night, he found chaos. Jennifer had left furious. Mrs. Grace was worried, and Emma refused to leave her cushion corner. "What happened here?" he asked, visibly shaken. "Jennifer showed up out of nowhere," Mrs. Grace explained. "Emma was very upset." David turned to Ashley, who was sitting on the floor beside Emma, trying unsuccessfully to comfort her. "This is your fault," he exploded. "You filled our heads with false hope. Emma's worse than before." "Mr. Thompson, please let me explain." "No, that's enough. You're fired. I want you out of my house first thing tomorrow." Ashley felt tears welling up but tried to stay composed. "Please, give me one more chance. I know what's wrong with Emma. It's not physical. She's afraid." What happened today only confirms it. Fear of what? Of abandonment. She associates any attempt to make her walk with the possibility of losing the people she loves. That's what happened with her mother. David fell silent for a long moment, processing Ashley's words. "Even if you're right, I can't expose my daughter to that kind of trauma anymore. You'd better leave." That night, Ashley returned to her small apartment in the neighboring district with a broken heart. She had genuinely grown attached to Emma and felt she was on the right path to helping her. The next day, before picking up her things from the Thompsons' house, Ashley decided to make one last attempt. She reached out to Jennifer through mutual acquaintances and found out she was staying with a friend in the Upper East Side. The meeting was tense. Jennifer greeted her with suspicion, clearly shaken by the traumatic encounter with her daughter the day before. "What do you want from me?" Jennifer asked, arms crossed. "I want to talk about Emma. I think I can help both of you." "You don't understand anything. I tried everything. I spent all my savings taking her to the best doctors in the country. Nothing worked." Ashley studied Jennifer carefully. The woman looked exhausted, with deep dark circles and slightly trembling hands. "Can you tell me what really happened that day on the stairs?" Jennifer closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "I was desperate. All the doctors said there was nothing physically wrong with her, but she refused to walk. I thought if I pushed a little harder..." Her voice began to falter. "I ended up forcing it too much. I tripped and we both fell. She kept screaming and I felt like the worst mother in the world. And that's when you decided to leave. It wasn't a decision. It was panic. I started having anxiety attacks every time I looked at her. I felt like I'd hurt her again." David grew more and more frustrated with me, saying I was making excuses. Ashley began to grasp the true scale of the problem. It wasn't just Emma who needed help. The whole family did. "Jennifer, what if I told you Emma was starting to get better before you showed up?" "That's a lie. She's been like this for over a year." "It's not a lie. She was crawling, playing, even trying to pull herself up on furniture. But when you appeared, she regressed because she associated your presence with the trauma of the fall." Jennifer began to cry. "So it's my fault I destroyed my own daughter?" "It's no one's fault. but all of you need to work together to overcome this. Emma won't get better as long as she feels the family is broken. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. Ashley spent the entire afternoon talking with Jennifer, learning that the woman had been seeing a psychologist since leaving home, but still felt too guilty to try reconnecting with her daughter. What if we tried a controlled meeting? Ashley suggested. I could mediate, help you two reconnect without pressure. David will never agree. He hates me. Let me talk to him, but first you need to be prepared. You can't show up expecting Emma to run into your arms. It'll be a slow process. When Ashley returned to the Thompsons' house to collect her things, she found an even tenser situation. David had missed work for the first time in years and was sitting on the living room floor beside Emma, who remained still and silent. I don't know what to do anymore, he admitted without looking up. She hasn't eaten since yesterday. Can I try? Ashley asked, leaving her bag by the door. David nodded, defeated. Ashley sat on the floor at a safe distance from Emma and began softly singing a song the little girl liked. After a few minutes, Emma slightly turned her head toward the nanny. She responded, whispered David, moved. Mr. Thompson, I spoke with Jennifer today. She wants to help, but is afraid. Afraid? She's the one who abandoned her daughter. She didn't leave out of a lack of love. She left because she felt guilty and inadequate, just like what's happening to you now. David raised his eyes, surprised by the comparison. I would never abandon Emma. Not physically, but you've been increasingly absent. You spend 12 hours a day at the office. When you're home, you avoid being alone with her. That's also a form of emotional abandonment. Ashley's words hit David like a punch to the gut. He knew she was right. I don't know how to be a father to a special child. I feel incompetent. Emma isn't special, Mr. Thompson. She's a traumatized 3-year-old girl who needs to feel safe and loved. We all need to work together to help her. That night, after a long conversation, David agreed to give Ashley another chance, but on one condition. She had to involve the whole family in Emma's recovery process. Mrs. Grace, who had overheard the whole conversation from the kitchen, appeared in the living room. David, my son, I want to help too. These past months I felt useless, watching all of you suffer without knowing what to do. Mrs. Grace, you'll be essential, said Ashley. Emma trusts you. We'll need that trust to rebuild her bond with her father and eventually with her mother. The following days were challenging. Ashley implemented a routine where David spent at least 2 hours a day playing on the floor with Emma, always following the child's pace. Mrs. Grace helped with motor coordination activities like stacking blocks and drawing. Slowly, Emma began responding again. She started crawling, smiling occasionally, and even tried a few times to pull herself up using furniture. But whenever someone tried to help her stand completely, she withdrew. 2 weeks later, Ashley thought it was time to try the first supervised meeting between Emma and Jennifer. David resisted at first, but eventually agreed when he saw how much his daughter had improved. The meeting was scheduled for Saturday morning on neutral ground, Mrs. Grace's house, which was in the same yard but a separate building. The idea was for Emma to feel she was in a familiar yet different environment from where the trauma had happened. Jennifer arrived nervous, carrying a new stuffed bear. I think this is a mistake, she told Ashley. What if she gets even worse? She won't. But you need to follow exactly what we agreed on. No trying to pick her up or forcing interaction. Just be there, available. When Emma saw her mother, her initial reaction was surprise but not panic like the first time. She clung to Ashley's leg, but didn't cry. Hi, sweetheart, said Jennifer, sitting on the floor at a safe distance. Mommy brought a little friend for you. She placed the bear on the floor between them and stayed there, quiet, just watching. After nearly an hour, Emma let go of Ashley's leg and crawled a few inches toward the toy. It was small but significant progress. All the adults in the room held their breath, watching the scene. Good job, Emma, Ashley said softly. You're so brave. The meeting lasted only 2 hours, but was considered a success. Emma hadn't regressed, and Jennifer had managed to stay in the same room as her daughter without causing anxiety. In the following meetings, which happened twice a week, Jennifer gradually got closer. On the fourth visit, Emma allowed her mother to play beside her on the floor. By the sixth, she even took a toy from Jennifer's hand. David watched everything with mixed feelings. Part of him was happy to see his daughter reconnecting with her mother, but another part still resented Jennifer for abandoning the family. "She's going to want to come back home," he said to Ashley one afternoon after one of their meetings. "And would that be so bad?" "I don't know. I'm still hurt by her. But at the same time, I see that Emma needs her mother. What matters is Emma's well-being. The two of you need to work through your grown-up issues without involving her." It was Mrs. Grace who suggested an honest conversation between David and Jennifer. She offered to look after Emma, while the two tried to sort out their relationship problems. The meeting took place on a Sunday afternoon on Mrs. Grace's porch, while Ashley played with Emma in the backyard. "David, I know you hate me," Jennifer began. "I don't hate you. I'm disappointed. You left me alone in a situation I didn't know how to handle." "I didn't know either. I panicked every time I looked at her. I started having nightmares, anxiety attacks. I thought if I walked away, everyone would be better off. But we weren't. I nearly lost my mind trying to manage everything. Work, the house, taking care of Emma. My mother had to move here to help me. I know, and I regret it every day. That's why I'm trying to come back slowly, to do things right this time." David took a deep breath. "Jennifer, I don't know if we can ever be a couple again. Too much has happened. But maybe we can try to be good co-parents for Emma. That's all I want right now. I just want my daughter back." They talked for hours, setting clear rules for their future interactions. Jennifer wouldn't move back into the house right away, but she'd have regular, structured visits. If all went well, she could spend weekends with the family. Meanwhile, Emma kept making progress. She could now kneel without support, and even tried taking a few steps while holding onto furniture. But there was still an invisible barrier keeping her from letting go and walking on her own. It was Mrs. Grace who had the idea that changed everything. "Ashley, dear, what if we brought a little dog to visit Emma? My neighbor has a very gentle puppy. Maybe it'll spark something new in her." Ashley thought it was a good idea. She talked it over with David and Jennifer, and everyone agreed to try. The following Tuesday, the neighbor brought Daisy, a 2-year-old golden retriever, very gentle and used to children. Emma's reaction was instant. Her eyes lit up like never before, and she began moving toward the dog with an energy no one had ever seen. "Doggy!" she said, one of the few words she spoke. Daisy lay down, letting Emma pet her. The little girl was delighted, laughing and making happy sounds. "Look how excited she is," David remarked, having left work early to witness the moment. Then something extraordinary happened. Daisy got up and walked a few feet across the room. Without hesitation, Emma leaned on the couch, stood up, and took 3 wobbly steps toward the dog. Every adult in the room froze with emotion. Emma had walked on her own for the very first time. The joy lasted only seconds. As soon as Emma realized what she'd done and saw all the adults staring at her in amazement, she dropped to the floor and burst into tears. "No, no, no," she cried, curling up. "It's okay, sweetheart," Ashley said, approaching slowly. "You were so brave, you don't have to walk if you don't want to." But the moment was already etched in everyone's memory. Emma could walk. The question now was making her understand it was safe to do so. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot, as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. In the following days, the whole family worked together to recreate similar situations where Emma would feel motivated to walk without pressure. Daisy started visiting the house 3 times a week, always bringing joy and natural movement to the girl. Slowly, Emma began taking more steps, always following the golden retriever or trying to reach toys placed strategically at a distance that required walking. The progress was evident, but still fragile. Any direct mention of walking made Emma regress immediately. It was during this phase that a new problem arose. Jason, Jennifer's new boyfriend, began questioning the time she was spending at her ex-husband's house. "Jennifer, this isn't healthy," he said during an argument Ashley accidentally witnessed when she went to pick Jennifer up at her apartment. You're fooling yourself thinking you can be a family again. It's not about getting back with David. It's about getting my daughter back. But you're there all the time. Sometimes I wonder if you're using the child as an excuse to rekindle things with him. Ashley noticed Jason's insecurity was starting to affect Jennifer, who arrived more tense to her visits with Emma. The situation worsened when Jason found out David earned well as a business consultant and began insinuating Jennifer was interested in financial benefits. "Don't you see?" he told Jennifer. "He has that big house, the imported car, the company. You're being manipulated." These conversations planted doubts in Jennifer's mind, making her question her own motivations. Did she really just want to reconnect with her daughter, or were there other unconscious intentions? The tension peaked one Friday when Jason decided to accompany Jennifer to the Thompsons' house. "I want to meet this perfect ex-husband," he said sarcastically. The meeting was disastrous from the start. Jason arrived defensive and confrontational, openly questioning Ashley's methods and implying the whole family was manipulating Jennifer. "You're giving her false hope," Jason told David in front of everyone. "The child clearly has serious issues and you're making up these little stories about emotional trauma." "Excuse me." David stood up, visibly irritated. "Who are you to judge my daughter? I'm her mother's boyfriend. I have the right to care about everyone's well-being." Mrs. Grace, who had been observing the argument, decided to intervene. "Young man, with all due respect, you don't know our story. Emma really is improving." "Improving?" Jason laughed sarcastically. "She still can't even walk properly. You're wasting time with these alternative methods instead of getting real medical treatment." At that moment, Emma, who had been playing with Daisy in the next room, appeared at the door, drawn by the raised voices. Seeing so many adults arguing, she got scared and started crying. The argument stopped immediately, but the damage was done. Emma refused to walk for the rest of the day, reverting to her previous behavior. That night, after Jason and Jennifer left, David called Ashley for a serious talk. "Ashley, I can't expose Emma to this kind of situation anymore. If Jennifer is going to bring this man here, questioning our methods and causing conflict, we should stop the visits. Mr. Thompson, please don't make a rash decision. Emma was making such good progress with her mother. But this boyfriend of hers is ruining everything. Did you see how she regressed today?" Ashley knew David Thompson was partly right, but she also understood that abruptly cutting off contact between Emma and Jennifer could be even more traumatic. "What if we talk to Jennifer alone?" Explained that she needs to choose between her relationship with Jason and Emma's recovery. "That would be an ultimatum. It's not fair. But it's the reality. Emma can't handle conflict and instability. She needs a harmonious environment to feel safe enough to walk." David spent the night wide awake, thinking about the situation. The next morning, he called Jennifer and asked to speak with her alone. They met at a cafe near downtown, far from the house and the intense emotions of the past few days. "Jennifer, we need to talk about Jason," David said, getting straight to the point. "I know you don't like him, but he's worried about me. That's normal. It's not about liking him or not. It's about the impact his presence has on Emma. You saw how she was yesterday." Jennifer sighed, stirring her coffee nervously. "David, I can't just end my relationship because you don't approve. I'm not asking you to. I'm saying you need to set boundaries. If he can't respect our family dynamic and Emma's well-being, then he can't be around during visits. And if he doesn't accept that, then you'll have to choose, Emma or Jason. You can't have both causing instability in our daughter's life." Jennifer went home with a heavy heart. She knew David was right, but she also didn't want to be alone again. Jason had been her emotional support, the one who had been there for her when she was at her lowest. The conversation with Jason that night was tense. "So they're banning me from seeing you?" he asked, disbelieving. "It's not a ban. It's about priorities. Emma can't handle conflict." "Jennifer, open your eyes. They're manipulating you. First, they convince you you're an inadequate mother. Then they offer a miracle solution. And now they're isolating you from any outside support. Jason, please try to understand. My daughter is walking for the first time. That's more important than anything. She took 3 steps. That's not walking, it's luck. You're fooling yourself. The argument escalated quickly, with Jason accusing Jennifer of being naive and easily manipulated, while she defended the Thompsons and Emma's progress. In the end, Jason gave his own ultimatum. Either you stop playing happy family with your ex-husband, or we're done. I won't be second in your life. Jennifer spent the night crying, torn between 2 choices that seemed impossible to reconcile. The next morning, she arrived at the Thompsons' house with red eyes and a decision made. I broke up with Jason, she announced to David, Ashley, and Mrs. Grace. You were right. He couldn't accept that my priority is Emma. I'm sorry, Jennifer, David said sincerely. I know it wasn't easy. It was the right decision, she replied with surprising conviction. I've already lost 6 months of my daughter's life because of my own fears. I won't waste any more time because of someone else's. With Jason out of the picture, the family environment became more harmonious again. Emma immediately sensed the change and began responding positively to encouragement. Her progress accelerated in the following weeks. She started walking longer distances, always following Daisy or reaching for her favorite toys. Most importantly, she seemed to do it naturally, without forcing it or feeling anxious. David, too, went through a transformation. He significantly reduced his work hours and began actively participating in Emma's recovery activities. He discovered that being a father wasn't just about providing financially, but being emotionally present. I was afraid I wouldn't know how to handle her, he confessed to Ashley one afternoon as they played in the backyard. I thought because she couldn't walk, I needed special knowledge to be a good dad. She just needed to feel you loved her as she is, Ashley replied. Not as you wished she would be. Mrs. Grace also found a new purpose. She started researching child development and emotional trauma, becoming a valuable source of support and knowledge for the whole family. You know, Ashley, she said as they prepared lunch together, these past months made me realize it's never too late to learn something new. At 68, I'm discovering I'm an expert in child psychology. The real turning point came unexpectedly. It was a Tuesday afternoon, 3 months after Emma had walked for the first time. The whole family was gathered in the living room. David had left work early. Jennifer was making one of her regular visits, Mrs. Grace was preparing a snack in the kitchen, and Ashley was playing with Emma on the floor. Daisy was across the room when David accidentally dropped his phone, which made a loud noise as it hit the floor. Emma looked toward the sound and saw David seemed worried. Without anyone noticing at first, she stood up and walked determinedly over to him, stretching out her little arms to comfort him. "Daddy, no cry," she said, using one of the phrases Ashley had taught her. David looked down in shock. His daughter had walked to him on her own, not to reach for a toy or follow an animal, but to comfort him. "Emma," he exclaimed, kneeling to her level. "Walk, Daddy," she said, holding out her hand. It was then that everyone realized something fundamental had changed. Emma wasn't walking out of impulse or external need anymore. She was walking by choice to express love and care. Jennifer began crying with emotion. Mrs. Grace came running from the kitchen, and Ashley felt her work there was coming to an end. "She understands," Ashley whispered to herself. "She finally understands that walking isn't dangerous. It's a way to connect with the people she loves." In the following days, Emma walked more and more, exploring the whole house and backyard with a confidence no one had seen before. There was no hesitation or fear, just the natural curiosity of a 3-year-old discovering the world. But the real test came when it was time for Emma to start attending the neighborhood elementary school. David and Jennifer were anxious about how she'd react to a new environment with unfamiliar people. "What if she regresses?" Jennifer asked the night before the first day. "She won't," Ashley said with conviction. "She's overcome the trauma. Now she's ready to explore the world." The first day of school was a milestone for the whole family. Emma walked in holding Ashley's hand, explored the classroom without fear, and even comforted other children who were crying from being away from their parents for the first time. "How is she handling this better than the other kids?" the teacher asked, impressed. "She learned it's possible to overcome fears," Ashley replied proudly, "and that her family's love will always be there to support her." When Ashley picked Emma up at the end of the first day, She found the little girl running around the playground with her new friends, laughing and playing like any child her age. "Ashley! Ashley!" Emma shouted, running toward her. "I made friends." "How wonderful, sweetheart. Tell me everything." On the way back home, Emma chattered about everything that had happened at school. She talked about the toys, her classmates, the teacher, the snacks. Her personality had fully blossomed. When they arrived home, David and Jennifer were eagerly waiting at the gate. "How was it?" they asked in unison. "It was perfect," replied Ashley. "She's officially ready to be a normal kid." That evening, during family dinner, David made an announcement that surprised everyone. "Ashley, Jennifer, and I have talked a lot these past few days, and we've come to the conclusion that you're no longer just Emma's nanny. You're part of our family. We want to hire you permanently," Jennifer added, "not just to take care of Emma, but to help us stay a close-knit family, even though we live in separate homes." Ashley felt her eyes well up with tears. She had come to the Thompsons' house only as a temporary nanny, but had become an essential part of healing an entire family. "I accept," she said, moved, "but on one condition." "What is it?" asked David. "That you both keep being present parents. I can help, but Emma needs your love most of all." "We promise," said Jennifer, holding her daughter's hand. "We promise," repeated David, completing the circle of hands around the table. Mrs. Grace, who had watched the whole scene from the kitchen, appeared in the living room with a cake she had secretly prepared. "So we're celebrating a new family?" she said, smiling. "New family!" Emma cheered, clapping her hands. The following months were about adjusting to the new dynamic. Jennifer kept her apartment but spent 4 days a week at David's house. They established a co-parenting routine that worked for everyone. Ashley moved into the maid's room, which had been renovated just for her, but her role had grown far beyond caregiver. She became the family mediator, the one who helped resolve conflicts and maintain harmony. David discovered a work-life balance he hadn't thought possible. He cut back his hours and started delegating more, realizing that being a present father was more rewarding than any professional success. "You know, Ashley," he said one Saturday afternoon as they watched Emma play in the backyard, "I thought having a daughter who couldn't walk was the end of the world. I never imagined it would be the start of me becoming a better person." "Emma was always perfect," Ashley replied. "You just needed to learn to see her that way." Emma started taking dance classes at her elementary school, something David and Jennifer had never thought possible. She loved moving and had excellent coordination, making up for all the lost time. "Look, Mommy," she'd shout during performances, spinning and jumping with the contagious joy of someone who had discovered the freedom of movement. Mrs. Grace became the proudest grandmother in the neighborhood, always telling the neighbors about her granddaughter's progress. She also developed a special friendship with Daisy, who was now an official family visitor 3 times a week. "That little dog was an angel in Emma's life," she told Ashley. "Sometimes solutions come from the most unexpected places." A year after Emma took her first steps, the family threw a special party to celebrate. They invited everyone who had been part of the journey, the neighbor who owned Daisy, the school teacher, even some of the doctors who had treated her. "I admit at first I doubted the unconventional methods," confessed Dr. Michael, one of the orthopedic specialists who had examined Emma. "But now I see you were right. The problem really was emotional, not physical. Traditional medicine sometimes forgets to treat the patient as a whole human being," replied Ashley. "Emma never needed surgery or devices. She needed to feel loved and safe." During the party, Emma made sure to show everyone how she could run, jump, and dance. She was clearly proud of her newly discovered abilities. "Ashley, did you see? I can jump rope," she shouted, demonstrating her latest achievement. "Yes, I saw, sweetheart. You're getting better every day." But the most emotional moment of the party was when Emma asked for everyone's attention. "Listen, everyone," and she said, climbing onto a little chair, "I want to thank everyone who helped me walk." Silence fell over the room. No one expected a speech from a 4-year-old. "First, I want to thank Ashley, who played with me on the floor and taught me that walking is good. Then Daddy, who stopped working so much to play with me. Mommy, who came back to take care of me. Grandma Grace, who makes the best cakes in the world, and Daisy, who showed me how fun it is to chase friends." There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Emma's eloquence and emotional maturity amazed everyone. "But I want to say something important," she continued. "I was never broken, I was just scared, and you all helped me not be scared anymore." David stood up and scooped his daughter into his arms. "Emma, you're the wisest little girl I know." "It's because I learned from you," she replied, kissing her father's forehead. The party lasted late into the night, filled with music, dancing, and joy. Emma was the center of attention, but in a healthy and celebratory way. When everyone had left and the house grew quiet, the family gathered in the living room for one last conversation. "Ashley," said Jennifer, "I'll never be able to thank you enough for what you've done for us." "You don't need to thank me. I'm the one who's grateful you let me be part of this journey." "What will you do now?" asked David. "Emma doesn't need special care anymore." "Well," said Ashley, smiling mysteriously, "I got a call last week. A family in Chicago has a 5-year-old boy who stopped speaking after his parents separated. They heard about our case and want my help." "Are you leaving us?" asked Emma, worried. "I'm not leaving you, sweetheart. You'll always be my family. But there are other children who need help, just like you did before." "And you'll help them like you helped me?" "I'll try. Every child is different, but they all need to feel loved and safe." David and Jennifer exchanged glances. They knew this moment would come eventually, but they hadn't expected it so soon. "We understand," said David, "and we support your decision. But we want you to know you'll always have a home here." "What if Emma misses you?" asked Jennifer. "Then I'll come running back," replied Ashley, hugging the little girl. "Or you can visit me in Chicago. How about spending vacation there?" "Really?" asked Emma, excited. "Can we meet the boy who doesn't talk?" "If his parents allow it, yes." Mrs. Grace, who had been listening from the kitchen, stepped into the living room. "Ashley, my dear, I'll miss you so much. But I know you have a special gift for helping children. It would be selfish of us to keep you here when other families need you." "Thank you for understanding, Mrs. Grace. Just promise me one thing." "What?" "That you'll stay in touch. I want to hear about all your cases, all the children you help. I promise." In the following weeks, the family prepared for the transition. Ashley trained a new nanny to help with Emma's routine, but only as support, since David and Jennifer were now fully present parents. "Will the new nanny be nice?" asked Emma. "Yes, she will. But remember, you don't need special help anymore. Olivia will just play with you when Mommy and I are busy." "I know. I'm a normal girl now." "You've always been a normal girl, Emma. You were just going through a tough time." The day of Ashley's departure was emotional for everyone. Emma made sure to prepare a letter and a drawing for her to take. "So you won't forget me," she said, handing over the envelope. "I could never forget you, sweetheart. You were my first victory as a specialist for special children." "Specialist?" David asked. "Yeah, I've decided to make it official. I'm going to study child psychology and specialize in emotional trauma. Emma's case showed me my calling." "That's wonderful," Jennifer said. "You'll help hundreds of families." "I hope so." The car taking Ashley to the airport arrived mid-morning. The whole family stood at the gate to say goodbye. "Ashley, will you call me when you get there?" Emma asked. "Of course, and you call me if you need anything, okay?" "Okay," David hugged Ashley gratefully. "Thank you for giving us our family back. Thank you for trusting me when no one else did." Jennifer hugged her too. "You saved my marriage and my motherhood. Now I know I can be a good mom." "You've always been a good mom. You just needed to believe it." Mrs. Grace was the last to say goodbye. "Take care, my dear. And remember, you'll always have a grandma in New York. And you'll always have a pretend granddaughter, no matter where I am." As the car drove away, Emma ran after it, waving until she couldn't see it anymore. "Will she come back?" she asked David. "Yes, sweetheart. Special people like Ashley always come back to those they love." That afternoon, Emma was playing in the backyard when she found one of the toys she loved using with Ashley. Instead of feeling sad, she ran to the gate and shouted as loud as she could, "Ashley, wherever you are, thank you for teaching me how to fly with my feet." David, working in his office, heard his daughter's shout and smiled. He knew Ashley had left behind much more than recovery techniques. She'd left a healed, united family ready to face any future challenge. 2 years later, Emma was in first grade at elementary school, one of the most beloved students in her class. She was known for helping classmates going through tough times, showing a natural empathy shaped by her own experience. "Mrs. Robinson," she said one day when a classmate was crying because his parents had separated, "can I talk to Jack? I know how he feels." "Of course, Emma. You can help." Emma sat beside the boy on the floor. "Jack, I know you're sad because your parents don't live together anymore. Mine don't either." "Really? And you're not sad?" "Sometimes I am. But I learned something cool. They still love me just the same. They just live in different houses." "But what if they forget about me?" "Parents never forget their kids, just like we never forget them. Love doesn't live in the house. It lives in the heart." Mrs. Robinson watched the conversation, moved. Emma had developed an impressive emotional wisdom for a 6-year-old. When David picked Emma up from school that day, the teacher called him aside. "Mr. Thompson, your daughter has a special gift for comforting other children. This is the 3rd time this month she's helped a classmate through a hard time." "Really?" "Yes, she has a natural way of explaining complex feelings so other kids understand." "I think she learned that from Ashley," David said proudly. "Who's Ashley?" "The person who taught us that love overcomes any obstacle." That evening during dinner, David told Jennifer about his conversation with the teacher. "I'm not surprised," said Jennifer. "Yesterday, she explained to me why the neighbor argues so much with his wife. She said they forgot to play together." "Play together?" "Yes. According to the Emma Ashley philosophy, adults argue when they stop playing and only think about problems." David laughed. "She's not wrong. We only managed to work things out when we learned to play on the floor with her." "Speaking of Ashley," said Jennifer, "she called today. The case in Chicago was successfully resolved." The boy started talking again. "That's wonderful. What's next?" "An 8-year-old girl in Miami who developed a fear of leaving the house after witnessing an accident. Ashley has become an expert in childhood trauma. And it all started here, with our Emma." Emma, who had been listening to the conversation while eating, looked up. "Can I talk to Ashley? I want to know about the girl in Miami." "Of course, sweetheart. After dinner, we'll call her." Calling Ashley had become a weekly tradition. Emma always wanted to hear about the new cases, and even gave suggestions based on her own experience. "Ashley, tell the girl in Miami that sometimes we have to be brave little by little," she said during one of their conversations. "You don't have to be brave all at once." "That's a great idea, Emma. I'll use that with her. And if it doesn't work, bring her here. I'll teach her not to be afraid." Ashley was always moved by Emma's generosity. The girl had transformed from a traumatized child into a little natural therapist. The end of the story. So, what did you think of this incredible story of resilience and family love? Little Emma's journey shows us that the greatest miracles happen when love, patience, and understanding come together. Tell us in the comments, have you ever witnessed a situation where affection was more powerful than any treatment? Leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories like this one.